طيب, number 2, organizations value solutions. This is something vital when you volunteer, is that when you go into organization volunteering, you'll always come up, there'll be always problems. Doesn't matter how strong the organization is, doesn't matter how perfect the organization is, it doesn't matter how big the organization is, yeah, there will be always problems, yeah. Know that what the organization will value the most is finding the solutions. Not just saying the problem. Yeah. You find often those people who simply say the problem, they are eventually neglected and sidelined. Yeah. Because they simply give you information without giving a solution. Yeah. And when you keep letting people know the problem, people know the problem already, but when you keep mentioning it, then it becomes like radio that's continuously just picking up the problems and saying it, yeah? Then eventually, frustration comes against you. And this tends to happen for the volunteers. Why? Because they tend not to have much authority in the beginning in any organization. Yeah. However, just because you don't have authority when you're volunteering, that doesn't mean you cannot provide solutions. You cannot say the solution. When you start giving the solutions, they will value you. Then they will give you authority, and then eventually they will even give you positions of authority and power. So a lot of time volunteers complain that I'm not being heard, yeah, I can't speak my mind and I'm not being heard. It's because you're usually maybe just saying the problem without giving a solution. So organizations value solutions, not problems. Because problems exist. Problems will always exist. But what they value is solutions. You have to be solution thinking. You have to be solution thinking. So when you go into an organization, when you volunteer for an organization, always have the mindset of finding solutions. That means you propose solutions when problems arise or are anticipated. The solution you propose may not always solve the problem, but it should at least mitigate it to some extent. Yeah, so even if it doesn't solve the whole problem, at least if it mitigates it, then that is a solution. That is still within the category of solution. The solution must also be actionable, feasible, realistic. Yeah? In other words, it should consider the organization's resources and team culture. Yeah? So you should not say something, obviously, which is beyond the organization's abilities and capabilities. Yeah? So it should solve at least some matters. It should be realistic. And it should be feasible. Here we wrote a quote. The mind, if I was to ask you, why is the mind for? Give me one quality that the mind was created for. What would you say? It's there in the quote. When you read it, you laugh. When you read the quote, you laugh. This is what majority of the people say, right? If you ask them this simple question, what was the mind created for? The majority of the people say to think. Yeah? That's the vast majority of the people, they say for it to think. Yeah? And that's the problem. That is the problem. Because the quality of the mind isn't there for simply thinking. That's what I wrote in here. The quote is, Rajan, I wrote, Arfan, sorry. The mind is there for solving, not simply for thinking.
Okay.
Yeah? The mind is there for solving, not simply for thinking.
My answer was to think to solve.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I knew you were trying to get there, yeah. The mind is there for solving, not simply for thinking. Yeah? Yeah, the mind was there because the heart is there for it to take in, yeah, and to feel. But the mind specifically is there for it to solve matters. So there is no problem that can arise around you except there is a way, there is a solution for you to find. There is a solution that can fix it, solve it, resolve it, rectify it. Yeah? It just needs the mind to think. Yeah? The more minds come together, the more better. Imagine in a room, you have 5 minds, yeah? And they all have minds which solve problems. Do you think these people, when they come up with, when there's any problem around them, do you think they'll be stuck? If those 5 people, all they do is solve problems. That's how the mind works. If they were given any problem, will they be stuck? They will find a way. Why? Simply because they think for solutions. Yeah? And if there were 10 minds, all they do, or 15, 20 minds, all they do is think without having the mind of solving. If you give the simplest of the problems, what would they do? They'll keep passing on to the next person. You solve it, you solve it, you solve it. Yeah? Why? Because they don't have this solving mind. Action. Suggest at least one solution for every problem that you or your organization encounters. Yeah? Suggest at least one solution for every problem that you or your organization encounters. Clear? Also, there's something here that happens often in when I've witnessed this throughout my years of working in teams and organizations, is people tend to question someone else's solution. And that's fine. But have you thought of a solution? So person A, say Ahmed, has come up with the solution of the problem. You criticize, you be very critical towards him. But you yourself have not come up with a solution. A lot of people find pleasure in criticizing the person who come up with the solution. They find pleasure therein without themselves coming up with a solution. What tends to happen then, even if that person came up with a solution at, say, 20%, because you're being so critiqued, that 20% might not be what? Implemented. And because you have not even brought up with a solution, so no solution takes place. That's why I always say, be critical, no problem, but always have what? A solution. You should come up with a solution. And another thing I always say is be critical, there's nothing wrong with being critical, be critical, aligned with the solution that you have. So you've got a solution in your mind, according to that solution, be critical with the other solution, and align it. See which of your critique applies more Does it apply more on his solution, or does it apply more on your solution? That way you can measure it, which solution will be the best solution of the problem. You see, the best of people, when they try to critique someone else, they already have a solution inside their mind. And they align it. They align it with their questions, they align it with their solutions. Yeah? And then people will say other stuff. Left and right, they'll say other stuff. So then he will align it with the solution that he has in his mind. And then see, will it work, will it not work? Does it have the same problems? Does it have the same risks or similar risks? Yeah? And then he gives it, if he thinks that all of these questions, you know what, he can answer it, or his solution can actually find the problem. Aligning it. So you when you criticize people, first and foremost, have a solution before you criticize. You should have your own solution. And then criticize. Criticize by aligning. So it's like he's got a mug and you've got a glass. So when you have a solution, when people are criticizing his mug, you can apply the same principles of criticism on your glass. When you are criticizing his mug, you can apply the same principles of criticism on your glass. Yeah? And then if it's a solution, you will have more yaqeen that your solution, yeah, is going to be more workable than his solution. And then you can argue much more better for your solution. When you don't have a solution and you keep criticizing other people's solutions, it builds frustration with the people who have solutions. Because you can't bring anything to the table. You can't bring anything to the table, so it brings frustration amongst other people. And sooner or later they will say, what's your solution then? Sooner or later they will say, what's your solution then? And then you'll be what? Yeah? With that one statement, 15 months of criticism on the other people completely shut you down. Completely shut you down. Okay? And it doesn't matter how intellectual you are, some people because they find so much pleasure in criticizing people, it's like they think, oh, they're so intellectual, they're so smart. Yeah? Because the people who solve problems, they don't speak much. Yeah? They don't speak much. Because they always try to find solutions. They're more work-orientated. So the people who speak much, they think they're more intellectual. Because they can maybe articulate better, or they can maybe express better. Yeah. But when it comes to real world solving problems, they're far behind. They are far behind. So they create a bubble for them which they live in, which is, I'm very what? Intellectual, I'm very smart, or I'm very sharp, or I'm very articulate. They create a bubble for them which they live in, right? And their whole life then goes in misery, because all the problems their life is going through, doesn't matter how high their intellect is, or doesn't matter how articulate and how much they can express about themselves, they can't solve problems. They cannot solve problems.